There is a law of life wherever life exists upon the earth. A law of birth, of growth, and the will to survival as each life form struggles in its environment to fulfill its destiny. A Joshua tree in the burning desert thrusts its insistent roots into parched, arid soil and, by some private miracle, finds the moisture it needs so that it may reach its arms toward heaven as though in thanks for the very gift of life itself. A solitary pine clings to its foothold on a wall of solid granite, alone, bared to wind and storm, deprived of soft earth in which to grow. It sinks its roots down through cracks and crevices in the rock until it encounters the liquid of life, and thus creates a majesty of its own. A gnarled Jeffrey pine fights for life on a rocky bluff, sending its exposed roots out across the barren rock, hungrily seeking the sources from which to draw its life-giving water. This is the law of life, for all life is dependent upon water. The tree, the plant, the animal, the people of a community. This is the story of a community and its life-giving water. In all of our East Bay cities and towns, the autumn days are often warm and sunny. Our fountains still play. Our flowers still bloom. Our people go pleasantly about their normal pursuits. But far away in the high Sierra, there is a different kind of season. Winter is an early visitor to the Sierra, a visitor who comes early and often stays late. The snows fall at times with quiet gentleness, like a heartbeat in the still of night. At times, they come with raging violence, driven by winds from the Western Ocean. But violent or gentle, they are our blessing, bringing our water for the coming year. At first, the craggy peaks are lightly touched by winter's brush, like old heads whitened at the crown. But as the weeks wear on, the granite faces disappear beneath a silver mantle, like great beasts in hibernation. The earth is still. It is a time of waiting. Those deep winter snows are nature's design for storing clean, pure water until the springtime suns begin their magic transformation. Then the mountains come awake to the sounds of running water. Water from melted snow, running off the mountains in tiny rivulets that grow into larger streams that feed the swelling brooks, flowing ever downward to join the master river. In such a way as this is the McKellamie formed, a river of melted snow, the source of living water for our East Bay towns and cities. Once the McKellamie ran uncaptured to the sea, until our communities, acting jointly, created a mammoth reservoir to hold a portion of its bounty. Pardee Reservoir, nearly 100 miles away from the rolling East Bay hills, is a storehouse for 68 billion gallons of McKellamie water. From Pardee, the stream flows downward through great arteries of concrete and steel, twin lifelines to cities and towns nearly 100 miles away. These are our taproots, threading their way across the open country, boring their way beneath the rivers. Sometimes burrowing their way beneath the ground. And at journey's end, pouring as much as 150 million gallons of their precious cargo every day through a giant funnel known as the Glory Hole. Clean water born of winter snow high on the granite mountains. This is the water, and this is the community it serves, from Castro Valley at the south to Crockett at the north, from the shores of the bay to the foothills of Mount Diablo. A community of well more than 1 million people who take the blessings of water for granted. Water to beautify their living, to produce their goods, to provide health and sanitation. This is a community of progress, whose progress has been made possible by its taproots to abundant water. There was not always abundance, however. There were times when our people, dependent solely upon local water sources, knew the plight of scarcity. Gardens withered. Water shortage became a community crisis. Every lost drop of water a threat to security. So it was in the early 1920s that community leadership sprang into action. There was a job to be done because we faced not one problem, but two. The immediate problem was the continuing threat of water shortage. Those sorry years when the region's rainfall could not supply our needs. We had known many of these. We had outgrown our water supply. The longer problem was the growth of our population. We had seen the East Bay grow from 100,000 people in 1900 to 340,000 in 1920. Looking ahead, we could see that number more than doubled in the next 25 years. If we were short of water already, how possibly could our area grow and prosper in the future? That was the challenge. It had to be faced. And it was faced with vision and courage. In the year 1923, the people of the East Bay were asked to approve an area-wide water district, a plan to end those worrisome years of drought and uncertainty. The people discussed it in democratic fashion. They knew what had to be done. And when they went to the polls, the decision was made by an overwhelming majority. Thus was born the East Bay Municipal Utility District, to be known forever after by the friendly nickname East Bay Mud. Shortly thereafter, the same communities were asked to approve the bonds that would make an adequate water system possible. It would take money, a great deal of money, but we had to have water. So, again, the voters went to the polls and cast their favorable decision. The new water district was ready to turn the plans into reality. It was a small district at first, less than 100 square miles, and it took 5 years to carry out the plan, to drive the first great aqueduct 94 miles out across the land, to build the tunnels, pumping stations, and filter plants, and to construct the dam that would hold the McKellamie snow water in reserve. That solved our problem for many years. But by 1946, the district had grown to twice its original size and contained almost 1 million people. Our single aqueduct was no longer enough, so a second was completed, parallel to the first. The twin taproots that carry our water today. Ever since its inception, the East Bay Mud has been recognized by waterworks engineers all over the world as an outstanding water system. Pardee Reservoir, for example, can hold enough water at one time to supply the district's present population for 1 year and a quarter. But East Bay Mud is more than a physical asset. It is also people. People who know how to run a water system. At Camp Pardee, there is a small village of such people, making their homes there, performing a myriad different tasks. They patrol the watersheds, chart the rain and snowfall, guard the water level of the reservoir, and during the heavy spring thaws, release the surplus waters back to the river. They also operate the powerhouse at the base of the dam. The sale of this power helps to lower the cost of water to the district's users. Maintenance crews are always on the move. The water system is not a machine which can be shut down for repair. It is a lifeline whose flow must be constant and uninterrupted to safeguard the community. Even its pulse must be taken, for vagabond currents of electricity have a way of attaching themselves to the aqueducts. These must be detected and controlled in order to prevent damage to the lifelines. The people of Camp Pardee are only a few of many hundreds whose job it is to keep the water system running. And a wonderful system it is, with its giant taproots carrying water nearly 100 miles from where it is to where it is needed. But even they do not work alone. For in the East Bay Hills are 4 great terminal reservoirs, which add the waters of local watersheds to those they receive from the Mokelumne. These local storehouses, together with Pardee's bounty, give the district a reservoir capacity of more than 100 billion gallons. Sounds big, doesn't it? It is big, but not a drop more than we need. For here in the East Bay, we use 130 gallons of water a day for every man, woman, and child in the district. Where does it all go? You drink only a small part of it. Use only a small part for bathing. Such uses, however, are but a fraction of the water demand you represent. For example, it takes up to 10 gallons of water to refine every gallon of gasoline that goes into your automobile. Oil refineries are big consumers of water. And so too are sugar refineries, which require 50 gallons of water to produce every 100-pound sack of sugar. Depending upon the variety, it takes anywhere from 25 to 160 gallons of water to prepare and process a case of canned fruits or vegetables. It takes millions of gallons of water to protect our communities from fire. Thanks to the availability of water, the East Bay enjoys some of the most favorable fire insurance rates in the nation. It takes water to run our industries, to produce the goods, the products, and materials which provide the community's payrolls. It takes water to launder the family's clothes, to wash the dinner dishes, and the family car, to keep our gardens green and blooming, and to fill the pools that provide our fun and recreation. Our water needs are tremendous and growing bigger all the time. To keep those needs supplied, we must bring down from the mountains as much as 150 million gallons every day of the year, and every drop we use is as clean and pure as scientific technology can make it. It sounds strange, perhaps, to speak of washing water, but in effect, this is what happens in the district's 5 modern filtration plants. That water from melted snow, runoff over granite watersheds, comes to us as clean and pure as can be found in nature. But the East Bay mud provides additional safeguards for optimum purity and safety. So in the filtration plants, our water is washed by air, treated for the removal of cloudiness or sediment, thoroughly filtered, and finally, lightly chlorinated in accordance with prescribed health standards. Meanwhile, laboratory technicians run constant tests, making certain that every gallon that flows into the district is clean and clear, free of objectionable odors, pleasant to the taste, and most important of all, bacterially safe. The result of all this diligence is a product well above U.S. Health Department standards. Water that is always safe for our people to use. Our public health officials, both state and local, are assured and aided in their efforts by this infallible supply of water that is clean, pure, and hygienically safe. It is a sum of many parts, the East Bay MUD, storage system, transportation system, purification system. It is, in addition, an intricate distribution system. The present service area of the district, including localities in process of annexation, covers 241 square miles. To distribute water throughout this vast area, the district is polka-dotted with no less than 115 distribution reservoirs, the neighborhood supply stations of the system. Unseen, beneath the ground, is a vast network of water mains, blanketing the district like a giant web. The smallest of these, indicated by the thinnest lines, are actually 8 inches in diameter. Below these in size are nearly 2,000 miles of smaller pipes to carry water to every home and building in the district. Every one of us is linked by our water faucets to this master distribution complex. Of course, if our district were flat, distribution would be relatively simple. But ours is a region of rising hills and rolling slopes. So to boost water to those residential hilltops, the district operates more than 70 pumping stations, capable of pushing water to as much as 1,500 feet above sea level. This is why, even on the highest hills, you have abundant water at your command. Yes, it is a sum of many parts, this amazing water system, but of all its essential parts, none is more essential than its people. The human side of the district, the more than 1,100 men and women who keep the district running. They are people of many different skills. In the shops, they work with machines and tools. In the offices, they work with machines and paper. They take the calls for service and render the services called for. They drive the trucks, read the meters. They dig the trenches and lay the pipe, the massive mains to serve a new neighborhood, the slender pipes to serve a new family. They keep pushing forward all the time, for the community they serve is dynamic, never static. Its law of life is growth. To provide for that growth, other district people, engineers, planners, designers, are thinking constantly ahead, even beyond the limits of their own lifetimes, knowing that today's water system will not be enough to supply tomorrow's needs. The continued progress of the East Bay and all its contributing enterprises will depend upon our community effort to provide the essential water. So, once again, we face the challenge of growth. The district that began service in 1929, with less than 100 square miles and some 450,000 people, has an area today, including portions still in process of annexation, of 241 square miles, housing more than 1 million people. But this is not the end. For in the years to come, with no impetus save our foreseeable growth, the district will have an ultimate area of 400 square miles and a population of at least 2.5 million people, more than double that of today. This is the challenge, and who can deny its reality? Who indeed can deny? The growth patterns are all around us, in the rising birth rate among our families, the influx of more and more families from other localities. The teeming schoolyards, whose young citizens not too long hence will be starting families of their own. The pattern is visible in other ways too. The construction of more schools, hospitals and factories. More roads, highways and freeways. More homes, shopping centers and mammoth subdivisions. All of this is gratifying, the evidence of our will to progress, to provide for our growing numbers of people. But in order to sustain those people, we also must have an abundance of living water. We must have available, the moment it is needed, at least 130 gallons a day for every new child born, for every new citizen we acquire. For those responsible for administering the East Bay Municipal Utility District, this is a matter of deep concern. They remember only too well the water shortages that plagued our communities prior to 1929. They know that a water system cannot be allowed to lag behind the needs of its people. It must be forearmed to meet the demand. For the East Bay community, that demand is a problem in plain arithmetic. When the district began operations in 1929, our daily water consumption amounted to only 26 million gallons a day. But look at what has happened. We now have an average daily water consumption of 130 million gallons, exactly 5 times as much. And the trend continues upward. For by the time we achieve that ultimate population of more than 2.5 million people, our demand will have risen to 350 million gallons every day. A lot of water to plan and prepare for. So how do we proceed from here? Fortunately for us, more water is available from our mountain watersheds, more than our present lifelines can possibly carry. We need more of it. This is why we must add our third taproot alongside the other two, and the supporting facilities to service and distribute the additional water it makes available. Facilities that range all the way from new storage on the McKellamie to more terminal storage in the East Bay itself. From new filter plants and pumping plants to more miles of transmission lines, distribution lines, and more distribution reservoirs. Facilities for storing, purifying, regulating, measuring, and delivering the East Bay water supply. The water our people need. As before, when East Bay MUD first came into being, all of this will represent a large investment, but one which pays its dividends back in life-giving water, so that our families and children may have the water they need, and our children's children for generations to come. We have sent our taproots out across the miles, and where they have gone, still others may go. Taproots to the living waters far above. Waters melted from the winter's snow and providentially stored in a mammoth reservoir. Waters bounteously replenished by the rushing mountain river, the tributary streams and brooks, the little rivulets created by the spring and summer suns. Clean water born of winter snow high on the granite mountains. This is the wellspring of our bounty. And like the prayerful Joshua tree, we must be eternally grateful. We have found our way to the living water, the very gift of life itself.